Our objectives for this module include the following. Students will be able to develop the intellectual, personal, and professional abilities, acquire basic language skills, acquire the linguistic competence required in various life situations, acquire the linguistic competence required in different professions, develop their awareness of the importance of English as a means of international communication, develop a positive attitude towards learning English, acquire the linguistic bases that enable them to participate in transferring the scientific and technological advances of other nations to their nation, benefit from English-speaking nations in order to enhance the concepts of international cooperation that develops understanding and respect of cultural difference among nations. Let's talk about English teaching. So why is teaching English important? Why is English important for the international audiences? Well, it's actually a global language. It's become a full-fledged professional and academic field, people studying what English is all about, the history, its development. There have been various interpretations of this language worldwide. It's the need of the hour. Many people are demanding it. Importance of learning a foreign language. The earlier the onset of foreign language learning, FLL, the greater the chances for language proficiency. Native-like pronunciation, improved overall school performance and superior problem-solving skills, enhancement of knowledge of native language, and development of lifelong ability to communicate with more people, better understanding of other cultures, competitive advantage in the workforce by opening up additional job opportunities. So basically, the better you speak English, the more opportunities there are available to you, and you'll have more people to communicate with, you have more cultures that you can understand, and more opportunities specifically with your career. So teaching English as a foreign language, or TEFL, or TEFL. So we kind of organize the native population of English speakers as the inner circle, outer circle, and expanding circle. And there are many people out there who don't know how to connect with English as a language. So in the inner circle, we have all the native speakers, USA, UK, Canada, Ireland, Australia, etc. And then we have the outer circle where there's a strong influence of English. Malaysia, Kenya, Singapore, India, these tend to be former colonies of England or English-speaking countries. And then the outer circle, which include countries like Taiwan, Japan, Korea, Germany, and France, there's no authentic presence of English. So there's a lot of opportunity, there's a lot of demand for learning English as, for example, in a language of international business, a language of understanding English-speaking cultures, and a language for opportunity in general. All right, variety motivation is a key factor in second language acquisition. In the classroom, motivation can be triggered by particular activities that are related to the age and level of language competence. So at a particular age, they might be motivated more by more interactive experiences, drawing and games and singing, so maybe more the younger ages. And at the older ages, they might be more interested in developing social bonds, connecting with abstract ideas, knowledge, freedom, love, etc., or even music as well, but some music from older ages. And also the level of language competence. If they're more advanced, then they could probably talk about specific topics. They could talk about the nuances of cultural discourse. Is it appropriate to have end-of-life assisted suicide, for example, which is probably a more serious subject? But if it's a lower level of competence, it's probably you want to talk about more about simple subjects, adopting activities that are within their interests. So maybe they're from a particular culture, maybe they're from China. They might be interested in the Chinese New Year and how to express their interest of it in English. They might be interested in a particular music genre, like maybe rock and roll. They might be interested in certain sports, maybe basketball, They might be interested in volleyball. They might be interested in ping pong, etc. So just talk about particular activities. And anything that they have a strong visual association with, that'll help them actually participate more with their speaking because they have a strong visual and they want to connect with that word more. So they're going to be eager to learn and they're going to be eager to express. So when they're familiar with something like the subject about themselves or something that they're directly exposed to on a daily or regular basis, like family members, friends, school, wherever the environment is that they live. Meaningful tasks, so the tasks that have a purpose. Maybe it connects with a humanitarian effort, maybe the environment, maybe it connects with helping develop awareness around a particular culture or minorities or the workforce, technology, etc., expanding technology to every area in the globe. So you might be talking about these issues. You might be identifying key vocabulary words that are connected with different cultures, Indian or Chinese cultures, or American, South American, etc. Integrating fun, play, and imagination into your teaching program. Anything that evokes joy and interest and is slightly challenging as far as the skill level. If it's too challenging, you're going to be inhibiting motivation. But if it's just slightly more challenging, it'll encourage them to get into a flow state where they'll be very happy and motivated and joyful. Imagination, pictures, props, anything like this is going to actually add a lot of variety. And variety is key. If anything is just one after the other, the brain will not like it. Monotony is the enemy of the brain, and people will get very bored and not interested. And being prepared to act. So taking initiative. If someone makes a suggestion, actually incorporating it into the lesson plan. The affective filter low. So facial expressions. Connect with body language. The objectives of this module. So you will be able to, by the end of this lecture, know the importance of learning grammar. Why do we need to do it? Identify the difference between inductive and deductive ways. Analyze and comprehend lessons carefully. Effectively use grammar while conversing. And the use of various grammar techniques. Framing correct sentences. And knowing the grammar behind everything. How can you make your reading skills more targeted, more specific, or just better in general? Get into the habit of creating an environment for your reading. So find a nice quiet place, turn off your electronics, set a timer for at least 30 minutes, and just make a habit out of it. Make a special place and time like I was describing a second ago. And you can take it anywhere. Reading is obviously a very mobile activity. All you need is the material, the book, the phone that your book is on. And read the right books. If you're not interested in science fiction, don't read a book about a man stuck on Mars. If you are interested in fiction, then go to a library, go to any fiction section, talk to a librarian, and you'll find plenty of fiction. And when you're choosing books, like point 1 and 2 say on the slide there, just ask yourself, what am I interested in? Science fiction, fiction, nonfiction, science? And what is my reading level? How complex can it be? So one great way to be engaged with the reading material or to help your students become more engaged is to encourage them to ask questions while they're reading and after they're reading. One thing they could do is keep a set of Post-it notes write the questions down on the Post-it notes and put the Post-it on the area of the text where the question came up. And they can just review the reading and see if they can answer the questions or see if they need to do some further reading or some further thinking to understand the text more. So it's about understanding and developing questions in your mind. Like if you're reading about, let's just say Mars, for example, that was mentioned in the last example for science fiction. Let's say you're reading about Mars and maybe the question comes up, how long would it take for us to travel to Mars? And then maybe write that on a Post-it note, put it in there. And it's more than about just reading about the Mars, the planet, and what we know about it. There's some ice on the poles and everything. It's more than just about reading the words, but about coming up with questions and thinking. So you can have a dictionary available. You can have, again, a nice quiet place to sit. You can review vocabulary words, and you can do some research on the book itself. So improving fluency first. Reading is fun. So those 3 words you probably read a little bit slower than if there was no periods in between them. So you have to understand how your mind, your brain interprets the words that you. So did you notice you stopped every time you saw the period? Yes. So we're just kind of playing around with your brain here. So basically fluency, flow, fluid. You really want to develop a flow as you're going through the words, not just sort of pointed. I'm interpreting each word as I'm going. So it's sort of you're clumping words together. One great way to actually improve the retention of information is to chunk it together. It would be very difficult to remember 16 digits when you see them individually, but if you see them together, like 4 at a time, you can remember them together. It might mean a significance, like the digit 181989, when given individually, might be somewhat challenging to remember. But if you see them together, 1989, that's a year. So it's sort of, you're doing the same thing with words. They're kind of chunked together. For example, in the slide here, do you notice how you stopped every time you saw the period? You're not just saying, do you notice how you stopped? You're just kind of going with the flow. So once you've learned to speed up, slow down. Enjoy the words. Ask questions like in the last tip that we went over. And just think about maybe double meanings. Read in between the lines. Really get into the ideas. So when you're instructing adult learners or your students that are learning English as a second language, they might think that, oh, reading fast is the only way to read. But then you need to take some time to slow down and start thinking about the text and its deeper meaning. Questions, again, back to questions. Just ask questions, inquire about what is being talked about. So again, if you're reading about Mars, how long does it take to get to Mars on the current technology that we have? How big is Mars compared to Earth? How big is Mars compared to the moon? How far away is Mars? So you're really starting to get involved in the subject matter. You're wrapping your head around it. You're also learning a little bit about yourself and how limited your knowledge is, or maybe even the types of questions that you're asking. So this is a really fun process. And reviewing what you read. So this quote here from Ezra Pound, a famous poet: no reader ever read anything the first time he saw it. And this can be true. Some people, they just sort of have to go back and reread it again because they blanked out, they zoned out, they didn't really pay attention. So it's a good way to see if you were paying attention. And as far as the materials of reading that are available, encourage others, encourage the students, the learners, to find magazines, newspapers, scientific articles, fiction, comic books, even instructions on food labels. Just really explore all the different kinds of texts and how they're written. And it's sort of like, it's almost like you become a detective, and you're trying to figure out the puzzle and how it all fits together and how language is constructed.